Hello everyone, we are back. Scrimshaw is on the road again today. I'm here in Cashel, County Mayo, with the very talented Angela Duffy at her studio in her home. So Angela is a contemporary Irish artist. Her art exists between the space of memory and material, exploring landscape, inheritance, rural identity, emotional residue carried through objects, places and generations. And behind us here, we have Resonance.
Yes.
Her painting from this volume of Scrimshaw, yes?
Yes. Yeah. This work was done last summer. Yeah, it was done outside, and it was all about the sounds around me.
So you actually painted it outside in the garden? Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah. It was all about being on site and allowing the work to develop through using sound, exploring sound through color, through shapes, through. So it was everything. There was tractor sounds, there was bird sounds, there was an occasional helicopter flying around at the time.
And these are all expressed through these little markings here.
Yeah, it's all about mark making to express the place through sound. Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing what you can come up with, isn't it?
Yeah, because everything has either a very low, so a very fine line, or it might be, you can even listen to her in and he's going ping, 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 ping. So you're getting a broken line almost. So it can be expressed whatever way you choose as an artist. And for me, this is the colours and the sounds that came through.
Angela has shown me around her her home and some of her artwork already, and I've seen like there's a lot of personal touch to everything that you do. So why don't you start with telling me a bit about that?
So I suppose being brought up in a small farm and being very close as a family, and we would be always very connected to people who came before us, our grandparents. I would have always gathered the history of the place, the field names. I just think we have an inherited history here. And I think it became particularly resident through my master's project, where I worked through research and through kind of discovery by a brother of mine. He was driving his tractor and he hit a very old pier. The pier is there since the 1800s. And I was like devastated that this pier got hit. This is just an example. And I went over to it and I was kind of devastated, but I knew he'd put it back together again. But there was, then I just looked into it and I found pieces of old Delft pottery.
Wow, so they had been there.
They had been. So whenever the pier was built or knocked or whatever along the way, this pottery was thrown in there. It was broken, so it was a way to discard it. There was no recycling. There was no bins. And I discovered one piece. I was able to research it. It took time, but it's a piece of Cavan spongeware, and it would have been a baking bowl originally. And early 1800s.
Wow.
So it was like, who had this? Was it my great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother? I don't know. Like early 1800s, you're definitely going beyond great-great even, I think. So it was kind of a little bit of a magic moment, and I felt there's a value in that, because so many people might come across these things and discard them.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't even think about it. They'd say it's just bits of pottery. Whereas it's a connection. There's a connection to the past there. So a lot of the work is to do with the connection to the past. This is the piece here that has the Cavan spongeware piece in it. So that's early 18th century, and that's the piece that was found in the pillar that was that fell down. This is actual clay that was dug on the farm. It's actually wild clay, so it can be fired into pottery. It would have been used once upon a time to do the jointing in the stones, to do the pointing. So that would have been probably the most use it would have got. But it can be fired into pottery as well. It's pure clay.
Everything that goes in
every material
that goes into your piece is actually from that you've discovered?
Yeah. Wow. There's nothing brought in that's not, except maybe the hooks on the back. Originally, I didn't have any hooks, but I found I needed to put hooks on for certain applications in certain spaces. But ideally, I just use even a little hole, because I want to keep the materials pure. Even like there's little bits of plastic here, which are kind of almost anti-natural material. But these were part of, there were barrels and they were cut in half and they were used for, they went from spraying potatoes to becoming half barrels for cattle to drink out of. And now they're disintegrating. They've been on the farm longer than I've been on the farm. Wow. And they just, I suppose they have memory attached to them. So they became integrated into it. This is not a piece that made the cut, but it's a piece, it was just an experimental piece. Yeah. And then of course you have the ash dieback. So you have the ash piece of wood here and you see the beautiful pattern that's on it, but it's ironic because it's ash dieback pattern, which is the loss of our beautiful ash trees. So yeah, that's that piece.
And when I came here first, you were telling me about your family's history here.
Yeah.
And I think that relates obviously completely to your pieces that you're showing now. So why don't you tell us a bit about that, to this area here?
So I suppose I had a realization before I started my master's research project that I had a load of words that I was using every day that were Irish. And there were words I had inherited from my parents and that they would have inherited from their parents. So it was almost like an inherited language thing, which I found really interesting. So like, you know, oh, they knocked a brooch in the ditch. So I was like, brooch, what's that about? I know what it means, but I've never really examined it as a word. So a brooch is where a part of a ditch falls down and it has to be rebuilt. So the actual fallen down piece is called a brooch. We would have the field names. We have Park na Hauna, the field beside the river. We have Cruculme. That was a tricky one. So
tell us how you found out about Cruculme.
Yeah, so Cruculme was every translation. I tried to translate all the Irish names, and Cruculme was one I was stuck on because it kept coming up as Columns Hill. There was never a column in our family. There was never really a column that we could ever point to along the way. So I was kind of, it didn't sit with me. And I kept researching and I'd go back to my own work and then I'd go back to researching it again. And I found loads of things online around field names and I discovered it translates as the Hill of the Dove. And it was like magic because the wood pigeons and the doves, they still fly across the hill. And one of the pieces then, I actually made a piece called Cruculme. And that's this piece. So Cruculme would have been the field where we would have always sown potatoes, because it was you know, just one of the good fields, as they say. So this piece kind of emerged from that. So in here I have a little tiny clay pipe that was found in that field when we were ploughing in the 80s. So we found many fragments of clay pipe over the years. But that was one of them, and I just felt.
What are the chances that was made with the wild clay?
Possibly. I can't rule it out because there's no stamp on it. A lot of the clay pipes would have a stamp, but generally speaking, there would have been a clay works, I think, that would make them. So I can't say. Generally, the clay would have been used for the pointing in the old houses and the cottages, sort of to fill all the gaps between the stones so that they could put on their whitewash. It was like a plaster mix. So I don't know about it being from there, but who knows? So in that field as well, there's also what they call a bothy or a bothon, and it was there's like a tall stone ditch, and built into it is like a little shelter, and it would be when they'd be working on the potato field or sowing oats or whatever, and a shower came. They'd go in there and they'd have their smoke and they'd wait till the shower would pass and they'd be able to go back. So I think maybe that's where the box comes from. But I also love the work of Joseph Cornell. He was a great maker of assemblages and boxes and things. So I have a love of that. And I love using old materials discarded things these are just pieces I found. The paints then was another element of this. So I've used oxide paints that would be used on tractors. I've used, anybody who has been in an old cottage has seen the red dressers and the red doors and the browns that would be used to paint. So like all those things connect to memory and times past. And so I'm trying to capture something in that. And of course, then you've got the mosses and stuff that grow on the ditches that are dried, and there's a wee bird's feather in there. But what I want people to do is walk in, look at this, and connect to something that they remember, maybe from their grandmother's house, or who knows what they connect with. You can only explain so much. The art has to go the rest of the way. Yeah,
that's true.
So that's that piece.
Because so much of your work is connected to memory, but it seems with all the pieces kind of structured together, it seems kind of fragmented. So do you think that memory is something we preserve or something that we continuously reconstruct?
No, I think memory is something that's constantly reconstructed, because if you put 4 people in a room and you ask them to tell the story from their perspective of a memory, you'll get 4 very different stories, because it's quite an individual thing, memory. But also, objects hold memory. The anthropologist Tim Ingold, he would talk about how memory is always being reconstructed through environment, objects and environments, through time, through even us moving through space. We everything interacts. So memory is a part of that. So yeah, it's something that my memory, what will evoke a memory in me, and what will evoke some sort of a memory in you from my art, will be 2 different things. So it's like a story. It evolves and it changes. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and your art kind of tells its own story.
Well, I think all art comes from the inner self. So we kind of try to, I suppose, not really reveal what we are, but I suppose we express something of what means a lot to us, or what, I don't know. It's almost a subconscious thing that happens through practice. But it comes from a deep space. And what was the question again?
The story of your art. But I think that's interesting about the subconscious. Because in an interview I did with Alice Lyons, she was talking about the moment that she literally was drawing and her hand turned to writing.
Yeah.
So have you had an experience like that? You're talking about your subconscious, how did that come to play for you?
Yeah, for me, when I work, I'm not making a drawing or a picture. I'm making something that unfolds as I do. So there's no outcome. I have maybe an idea of what marks I might use. I would have a sketchbook that will kind of guide a little bit, but a lot of it happens spontaneously. So the work evolves, and it is. So there's times where when I start, I sort of say, okay, how do I start here? Music always plays a part, because it disconnects you from the thinking. You go into another space where thinking is not important. It's more about allowing whatever information you've gathered that will happen in this painting will evolve. That's the only way I could put it. It will evolve as you work. Yeah.
That's so interesting. So you kind of turn on the music and you just kind of...
You start, you have your sketchbook with a few images or a few drawings, and you make that first mark. And maybe for about the first 10 or 15 minutes, you're kind of making decisions. But after a while, you say to the painting, what do you need next? Which is and it's this thing I have noticed. There's a switch that happens. You go from saying, okay, I'm going to put this here and put this here. And then after a while, you're saying, okay, step back. What do you need now?
Mm-hmm.
Where does the next thing go? And sometimes there's a decision made. Sometimes it just happens spontaneously. That needs to go there. Or this. Now I'm stuck. What do I go to? Go to my sketchbook. Look at my sketchbook. Okay, get back, start again. And color is the same thing. What color? Like, it's a constant kind of thing of questions and allowing the work to unroll and show itself to you as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is, it's a nice way to work, because I have to set an alarm when I go to the studio.
You go that much out of yourself?
Yes.
Wow.
Because if I didn't, and I work at night.
Really?
Only at night. It's the time.
Spooky.
Well, I work, say, from about 8 o'clock in the evening until about 1 or 2 in the morning.
Wow. Okay.
Because it's the quiet time of night. Nobody needs me at night time. They're all gone to bed. Nobody is banging on the door, and they're warned, don't come near me when I'm in the studio, because it pulls you out of that zone. Mm-hmm. Somebody comes knocking at the door or rings the phone. So the phone goes on silent, the music goes on. I set an alarm for maybe 3-4 hours, and then, because I'll be on my feet as well, and you'd be wrecked at the end of it. But if I don't set that alarm, I can't say what time I'll come out of the studio, because it has happened.
Wow.
4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. That says to me that you're like,
you disconnect completely.
You artist in your heart. Yeah.
I don't know. All I can do is it does something for me that nothing else does. Mm-hmm. So
maybe we can talk about your work, the cover of Channel magazine, mm-hmm. Spring Volume 2025.
Yeah.
Complex movements in Space One.
Yeah.
What an achievement.
Yeah, it was great. Mm-hmm. It was great. They reached out to me and said that they were interested in using some of my work that they saw on my website. So I said, yeah. And it was very much a collaborative project, which was wonderful. I worked with Cassia. She was the editor. I'm not sure if I'm sure she probably still is. But
so they actually reached out to you to make something for them?
No, they seen work and they felt that it would work really well on their cover. Mm-hmm. And I said, absolutely. And then they come back to me and said, we'd like Complex Movements in Space One. There's 3 of them. And I said, okay. And I said, yeah, I'm willing to work with you. And they were really, really, what I really liked about it was a very easy process, because I was kept in the loop as to the proofs. Mm-hmm. And they kept it that the painting didn't look very different on the cover. It still felt right. Mm-hmm. It didn't change. It wasn't made big. It wasn't chopped small. It wasn't cropped in any way. It was just allowed to flow across the cover, mm-hmm. which was the actual big part of the work itself, because it was about, I suppose, it was part of my undergrad work. And at the time I was very interested in AI. It was becoming a thing, and the world felt very complex. And I think that's probably where the title came mm-hmm. from. And we were moving through this, you can even see my hand movements. We were moving through this very complex early days. I think it's probably getting even more complex as we go on. But that's what that painting was about. And it was about kind of how we're finding our way through different things. And for that cover, I felt it worked really well. If it didn't work well, we would have probably just said, I don't know how we can proceed. But they were really, really easy to work with. They kept the proofs coming to me. And it was joy. It was absolute joy. And any work that gets, I just feel any work that gets out of the studio is, you don't always get a gallery wall for drawings. You don't always, it's very competitive now for galleries. And I just feel, I just want my people to see my work, appreciate it in some way, shape or form, however that is. So to get it out of the roll and onto some form is great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a positive.
I have 2 questions in response to that. So you're talking about it's difficult to get the work in a gallery, but you seem to have had quite a few kind of galleries and showcases.
Yeah.
Your work seems to showcase well.
Yeah. For a long time, I hadn't the courage to have a solo show. I had enough work gathered, but I also felt I needed to do the qualification thing to prove to myself that I could do it. But also, I think it gives your work, it raises your work to another level. And I think courage and confidence comes with that as well.
Yeah.
So I always did group shows and local shows, and but I've found since college then there has been more opportunities to show my work. And when your work is together, I think there's more of a communicative element to it. It's one piece relates to another, and I think people get a better sense of who I am as an artist rather than just one piece in a multitude of others.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean there isn't value in that. There is value in it, but to showcase your work together is important because it communicates something.
Mm-hmm.
One piece resonates with another, and they kind of bounce off each other a little bit, I suppose, when they're together, a group of works. So yeah, there has been opportunities and it's been great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so hopefully solo show coming soon.
Oh,
if I can get if I can get a gallery.
Oh. You guys watch this interview. Come on. So how do you go about getting something like that set up? Because a lot of the people that, watch this or are thinking of applying to something like Scrimshaw, they have no idea how to start. Like for me, before I did this course, I had no idea what to do.
So I suppose the first port of call would be to sign up to newsletters, county councils. Visual Artists Ireland is a good one because all the opportunities are there.
Mm-hmm.
And all you can do is apply, try, and hope it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of an ongoing process of filling out proposals and well, not really filling out proposals, but writing up proposals and form filling and stuff like that. But if you don't try, it'll never happen. Mm-hmm. So you just kind of put one foot in front of the other and say, I'll have a go.
And did you have a few rejections before your
first? Of course.
It's encouraging to hear it.
Of course. And there's never a time a rejection comes in that you don't feel, oh God, am I doing the right thing? And self-doubt creeps in, and it's just part and parcel of it. But when you get that acceptance, it cancels out and you kind of say, okay, somebody else likes what I'm doing here. Yeah, so it does make a difference. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it gives you thicker skin as well.
Yeah, you do. And
realistically, you
and I think as you build your work and even if other people don't recognize it or don't, there's value in it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because you do it for yourself first. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm going to circle back because we were talking about your work that was featured in the magazine and how you grew to a showcase. And obviously your work is extremely personal and you're trying to build the idea and the feeling of this space in Cashel and Mayo. Mm-hmm. So how did you feel, or were you conscious of like how your pieces might communicate to people outside your traditional audience?
Yeah. And I think, so, a lot of the new, I suppose, generation that go to galleries now are the, what do they call it, millenniums and the millennials and the I'm really not up to scratch with all that, but anyway.
Tell us again about the millennials.
The millennials. So yeah, in the gallery space now, you have younger generations coming through, and so the audience has changed, and I do think that there's a want, not a need, a want as much as a need to disconnect and to find quiet spaces and to find a non-digital space. And I think that my work brings that, and it brings something of tradition. It brings something of environment, which I think young people are really aware of.
I think that people are really overstimulated now, and not in like a moment, like all the time. So something to disconnect.
Yeah, you're connected 24/7 with the phone. If it pings in the middle of the night, people will wake up to respond almost or see what's come in. So, I think there's a value in, we see quiet spaces even popping up in colleges where they have these little hub spaces where you can go in, close the door, just to disconnect. And it's not just for people who are neurodivergent. I think everybody needs that. We all get overstimulated. We all need, if I have a busy week, I have to have disconnect day to just, zone out from the busyness of day-to-day life.
And you think your art brings that forward?
I think that it can bring it into a space where people can kind of say, well, first of all, we don't have a product as such. It's work that's built from everything given to us by the environment. This work in particular, I can't say that every piece of work I make going forward will be the same, but I just feel like Joseph Cornell as an artist, I probably touched on him before. He used to go into thrift stores and buy things, and he would make these boxes that were kind of magic for their time. And I love the idea of a return to this. We don't need more new materials. There's enough stuff in the world for us to recreate and make. Even just the raw materials outside are there for us to use. We can exploit them in so many ways for creativity. So, and I think it kind of, you don't need a plug. Art is something that's just, it's there. It's a space, it's a quietness, it's a memory, but it also captures Ireland and our values and our social connectivity that we had, especially on farms, working together, talking together, getting the stories, or go up to Park Nahauna, go up to the field beside the river and bring down that, or, that social interaction and where we learn about our people. There's a bit of a disconnect happening with that.
Do you feel like it's at risk of losing those traditional values?
I think it's in decline. I can't say it's gone because there are families who still work in similar ways, but it is in decline. You see a lot of farmers now are part-time farmers or farmers who work till 5, 6 o'clock and then they come home and do the farm in the evening. It's become very mechanized, which is a good thing in terms of you can do your harvest faster and everything. But because it's all sped up, we've lost the stories. We've lost the knowledge, that indigenous knowledge that's passed on to the next generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting word, indigenous.
Yeah, it's the indigenous practices. Like, where to plant. There's something ingrained in farming that a farmer has inherited like an understanding of the land, that he knows that tree will grow there. but it won't grow in that field.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes an inner knowing,
Mm-hmm.
because it's an understanding of living on and with the land.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very different to living on land and using it for a capitalist business.
Yeah.
It's taken that business model out. Yes, it has to generate an income, and no farmer is generating huge income, but it comes with a respect of living alongside everything else that we share the land with.
Mm-hmm.
There was a study done on beef production and the quality of feed. So they measured a field that had multiple weeds, as we call them. Basically, they're herbs, because you've got dandelion, which is kind of a liver tonic. You have, thistle. You've just a variety of plants you have, and they measured to see if a green field, pure green, sprayed, planted, nothing else allowed to grow but a green field, no good to biodiversity, which was better for feeding the animal. And ask any farmer who's grown up close to the land, you don't need to ask them.
Yeah.
You know that field that has all those plants is going to be more beneficial. But they did a study, and it was proven that field with all the herbs actually fed the cattle. They gained weight better. They did better. I can't remember who done the study. It was Chagask or one of these agriculture, but it was proven that the field that had the most biodiverse amount, plants and wildlife and what have you, it benefited everything, but it benefited the animals as well.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that's living with the land,
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to forcing,
taking the land, really.
yeah,
And
using
it
it,
what you want.
using it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about using it in the correct way.
Mm-hmm. When I met you, when I first came in, I was really struck by the pieces about your mother.
Yeah.
So please show us. I would love.
So, I suppose the first thing we looked at was this little bunch of.
It's actually kind of, yeah.
So it's kind of shivery grasses. They're called, in Old Irish, they're called Fargurta, which was, of course, the hungry man. And I'm sure that probably would have originated at the time of the famine. But they mostly grow here on the way when we would be going, when we were young, we'd be going to the bog, and you'd be walking along the road and you'd be chatting to your mum. And she would always see them, my mother would. And she'd always say, oh, the shivery shakes. I have to get a bunch of shivery shakes, because they dry beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, they're not any other name but shivery shakes. So these became a part of the exhibition as well, because again, it connects me to my mother. It's a story, it's a memory.
Mm-hmm.
And even to this day, when I see them, I sort of nip a few and dry them every year, because it's Mammy's bunch on the. It still continues in a way.
And this went to the Sligo showcase with you?
Yes. Yeah. So I had my works placed on the wall, and so I had two pieces that weren't really works as such, but they just related well to them. And that was one. And the other one was a piece of, it was a piece of woven straw, which was all to do with rope making and braids and all that kind of thing. And that's something I want to explore further in my practice. So I'm hoping to do a bit of willow weaving and braiding grasses and things like that. So that's kind of my next venture. Yeah. And I also took a cast. Well, this wasn't a piece of the artwork, but this is something I did back in 2007. And again, I would often hold it up. So it's a cast of my mother's hands, and you can see the wedding ring there. I did this in 2007, and I suppose at the time I was looking at my mother's hands. She was getting on in years, early 80s maybe, around that time, and you know, you can see the work in a person's hands. I think hands speak volumes about a person. There was no manicured nails. They were just very simple hands that worked very hard, that reared a family. And I just thought, oh, I want to capture those hands. And I think it was also to kind of hold on to a little bit of her, because I knew she was getting older. And it was a way for me to maybe hold on to a memory of those hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there were hands that worked hard. They, you know, she was a simple woman. She had a simple life. She was a good, kind person, and she did her best for us all.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't perfect, but she was a good mother.
Mm-hmm.
And anything she did for the good of us all. So it was just a way to capture that. Yeah, and it's just the bond between mother and daughter as well. I'm an only daughter, so yeah.
And can I ask, of course, if you don't feel comfortable answering, that's okay. When your mother passed away, did that affect your work a lot? Did it change anything?
My mother passing away, she had been sick for quite a while. She died when she was 89. So I looked after her up until she died. Of course, with the care of nurses and, you know, outside help coming in. But it was full on, but it was very cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that was very, it was my way of giving something back to her. And I was glad I was able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard and it was stressful at times, but it was so rewarding. And what was the question? It was like,
did it affect your work? Did it trigger anything within you?
For about 6 months afterwards, I drew a lot of very strange drawings, because she had quite a nasty cancer, and I did a lot of sort of, I think I was just processing the actual trauma of looking after somebody who was so ill. But as like my art was always present, even though I wasn't actively working at the time, I was processing the trauma through my artwork in sketchbooks. It didn't become actual artwork because I didn't feel that was necessary. For a long time, I worried when I was a child about losing my mother. So when it actually came to pass, it was okay, because that fear was no longer there. And I had time. There was no shock. There was time for me to process what was happening, if that makes sense. And at the end, there was a release. So in a way, for my work, I became quite liberated after she passed as well, because I had been so, and that sounds almost selfish, but
I don't think so.
Yeah, there was kind of a freedom that came, because it was hospital appointments. It was very full on, and she had lived as well as she could for as long as she could, and that was all we asked for. And so for me, I didn't need to process it any further through art. But maybe I'm still kind of, because family and mother is still in there. So of course she comes through, because she was a big part of my life.
Of course, yeah.
But the trauma side of it was processed through sketchbooks and drawing and tears and all the normal sort of things as well. But I've reached a point where I feel liberated. I have the freedom now to focus on my work, because you know, it's full on when somebody is sick.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I think this is a really interesting question for me. I'm very interested in what makes people the way that they are. And for me, I find it very striking that you've picked up everything around you and just turned it into something else, and that comes so naturally to you. But I wonder, do you think that artists are naturally more sensitive to memory and emotional detail? Or is it something that artistic practice teaches you?
Um, I think we are sensitive old souls. Yeah, I think we are. Um, yeah, I mean, well, for me, I can only speak for me. I mean, other artists may have different viewpoints because everybody comes from their own perspective. But for me, yeah, I'm an empathetic, sensitive, old weepy soul.
A lot of artists are,
I
I think.
walk, I mean, like, you know, I walk down a bog road and I see a thrush and I go, oh, it's thrush. Or I see a flock of hooper swans flying over and I go, oh, they're heading north. Summer is coming. I hear the cuckoo. So, I mean, even music can make the hair stand up in my neck. Some, the goosebumps, or can make me cry, or it's. I think we are sensitive old souls, and I think we're very. But I think our sensitivity to vision and seeing becomes heightened by working.
Mm-hmm.
We like we look a lot of the time and we see things, but we don't really see them. It's not until you stop and say, I'm going to look at that again, and then you really see them. It's like looking at a leaf and saying, oh, that's a leaf. Your brain will tell you it's just a leaf. But it's when you take the leaf in your hand and look at it and you see the veins and you say, oh my goodness, it's like my veins in myself. It's like, it's like the roots of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
You form a connection to everything. I like art is everywhere. On a windy day, it's you go into the bog and there's all the tall reeds and they're all dancing around you, and it's so animated. I'll never forget. I went into the bog and it was like, oh, God, it's so animated. It was as good as any live, music event, but it was just me on my own, and I was experiencing this, and it's just. I think it's if you can see the little things.
Mm-hmm.
And value those, the bigger things really don't
Yeah.
matter. Yeah.
It kind of all works itself out then.
Yeah.
I think so,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
That's
agree with that.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. That was so interesting.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Cheers.
We're going to wrap up, guys, but thank you so much. And please follow Angela on her Instagram. Keep up with her work.